Ladies and gentlemen, today I have the privilege of sitting down and breaking down the 2026 Boston Marathon with Jess McClain, who ran 2:20:49, placing fifth in the Boston Marathon field. And in the process, she set the American course record at the Boston Marathon. Jess is 34 years old and literally running the best times, the best races of her life. And this is a part of her story that I've broken down on previous podcasts, but specifically in depth in this podcast. How is she running so dang fast at 34 years old? How is she running better than ever, better than she was 10 years ago at 24 as a professional runner at 34 years old? We break it down in today's conversation, the tips, the insight, the wisdom, the stories that have gone behind Jess's resurgence in the sport of running, and debatably, but also at this point, I don't know if it's up for debate, becoming the greatest American women's marathoner in America at the moment. Like, if the trials were held today, I think hands down she'd be the favorite to win the trials and lead Team USA. But she's building towards 2028. I asked her, do you wish the trials was this year? And she's like, heck no. Like, I'm ready. I'm excited for this 2 years left that I've got. I still feel young. I still feel like there's a lot left to do in the marathon and learn and train and consistency and all that fun stuff. So I love my conversations with Jess. We go deep on a plethora of subjects, and we also break down her historic performance in Boston. If you enjoy this one, give us a 5-star review. It takes next to no time. Share the podcast with a friend and make sure you are following the podcast. On the back end, it says that most of you listening, watching this right now are not following the podcast. I promise you, I will make you this promise as Dominic Schluter, me to you, that I will get on the best names, the biggest names in the sport of running. I release episodes every other day. No other podcast in this space does it with that much frequency, with that much intention. So hit the follow button. I promise you, I will deliver the best conversations I possibly can. So without further ado, enjoy one of those conversations that is absolutely remarkable with an absolute legend, the newly minted American course record holder on the Boston Marathon, Jess McClain. Jess McClain, simple question. What's your superpower?
Oh God. Hi, Dominic. Definitely don't have one. 34 and still trying to discover a superpower. I think you're always asked that when you're a kid. Like, what superpower would you have? Oh gosh, I don't know. I think hopefully being present right now. I don't know. I guess that's kind of a lame answer, but I feel like I didn't have that for a long time, or just like the ability to enjoy where I'm at right now. And I think I'm doing that. So I don't know if that's a superpower, but we'll take it.
The reason I asked, maybe tongue in cheek, joking, starting the podcast out on a fun note, but your story, and I hope you'd agree with me, is one of the coolest I've ever seen in the history of the marathon, track and field. And the way that I know when I turn on the TV for a major marathon that you're going to be front of the pack, leading the pack, responding to moves, and then out kicking for fifth place at the Boston Marathon or whatever marathon it might be. Like, it's
Yeah.
textbook. You can bet on it at this point.
Oh,
Is it crazy just to see your story and do you ever wake up and you're like, wow, this is weird that this is the life I'm living?
I don't think so. I felt like last year in Boston it kind of felt that way. I was kind of like, pinch me, I finally had a moment that I was working. It's not that I work hard to only achieve those things. Like, of course, like the medals and the podiums and the PRs are super shiny and great. I think I was just really enjoying the journey to get to each of those big moments in the last 2 years. But I think Boston last year was the first time where it's kind of hard not to, in like a world major where you have a performance that you're proud of, like not have that moment where you're like, oh man, like I'm really doing it. This is crazy. But I think since then, I've just really believed that I belong, and I believe that I don't need to do it any other way than the way that's best for me. And I think it took a lot of time to build the confidence around that. I think I got back into the sport and things that had only gotten crazier. Like, training has gotten more intense. People are doing double thresholds, and marathoners are running, north of 100 to 120 miles. And altitude camps are still a thing. And I think that intimidated me when I got back into it, not knowing that I would, have the path that I've had since the trials. But eventually I kind of put my blinders up, and I'm like, my body's been super healthy and getting stronger for the last almost 4 years now. I think November will be 4 years that I've been healthy and out of an MRI machine. So that's like the biggest goal. But no, I'm not like Yeah, I think the last year has been a big kind of jump in like the mindset mentality where it's like I belong, and I really believe that, and I'm having a lot of fun figuring out like what the next jump is. Yeah, so I not sure if that answered your question fully, but
No, what I always say to my guests is there's no proper way to answer a question. I throw out the question and it's yours to run with and respond with how you see fit.
love
What
it.
would you say to someone out there who puts this immense amount of pressure on themselves to get stuff done within this period of time? And I think where that question comes from is back in high school when I was trying to get recruited,
Uh-huh.
I was like, I fell into the trap that I think a lot of other kids do of like, I need to run this time by
Oh
this
yeah.
season. And if I get injured, okay, then I got to make it up. So then you train a little harder. And I think
Mhm.
collegiates feel that trying to go pro, pros feel that trying to get a contract extension or get the attention of a brand, or even maybe someone like yourself used to feel it of like, I know I only have so much time left in my career. And so I got to do this pinnacle moment to like feel good about myself or good about my career.
Oh, I totally felt that way. I was like, if I never make a team, world team, Olympic team, just any team USA, I honestly felt that my career would have been a failure. And that's such a gosh, it's such like a crappy way to operate and exist in a space in sport or like any industry or whatever it is that you love. I think and it's also so limiting. I think there there's so many other amazing things to achieve in the sport, and I think the marathon really opened my eyes to that. Like I think on the track I was just so I was, my collegiate career, my high school career was great. Collegiate career was fine. Like I think it was above average. I think I still wanted a lot more. But then my pro career, I just so got in that mentality where I'm like, I feel like I have a deadline to achieve XYZ. And I think the more pressure, obviously, that you put on yourself, you're draining the joy from like the day to day grind. Not every day is going to be, you know, easy and super fulfilling, but I think like I know now, and I think it's perspective too. Like I'm 34, and I think the early years of my pro career, I didn't have the perspective that like, okay, the more bricks we keep stacking and the more miles we keep running year over year, you're just going to get stronger. And I feel the best that I feel at 34. Then I feel better than I did at 28. Getting out of bed, I feel better even maybe than I did at 26. And like that's really crazy to see. And I wish I could have like had, I don't just some perspective that like um helped me enjoy the moment I was in, because I think I spent a lot of time not enjoying it. And I think for somebody that's young that has that mentality, it's like, first of all, it's okay to be at a point in your career or your journey where you have those thoughts and feelings. Like I think that's so normal. Um and nothing great comes without some friction or like growing pains or learning curves. And I think had I not gone through like all the adversity, the injuries, um I don't think I would have made it to this point where like I have the perspective now. So I think it's hard. Like obviously if something's really not bringing you joy and you're chronically injured, it's first of all okay to take a step back, take a pivot, explore other things. But it's also like I think we live in an era, everybody talks about it, where you just see a lot of overnight success stories and you get an Amazon, like I can put an Amazon order in and it shows up at 4 p.m. the same day. Like we're just so used to instant gratification. And I think it's hard to tell somebody that's young that like you've picked a sport where like, sorry, but the more you do it and the longer you do it for, the better you get and the more you learn. So I think you just have to embrace that too a little bit. But I also just hold goals. I don't talk about my goals every day. I don't like hold them so tight anymore. I would love to make the team in 2028, but you will not catch me like taking the joy out of the days that it will take to get there. So, yeah, I'm just enjoying the ride. I'm living my life. I'm, investing in relationships and my career outside of running, and honestly, like that has brought me a lot of joy in my running career, only because it's like I feel like I get to do it and it's not like I have to do it. Like I honestly feel like running is the best part of my day. My race weekends are the best out of the year. Like I try to turn off from work and I just fully like lean into the race weekends that I have. And that's been really great for just like growth and happiness and general well-being. So yeah, also lean into the things that make you you, I think. Yeah, don't let those die. I did
End
for
of
a little bit.
podcast. That
No.
response there was gold. So much I want to deconstruct in there. I think the first thing I want to talk about is the overnight success sort of myth that we see in culture, where on the outside we see this one big performance, but people don't see the work that goes in the scenes before it. For you,
Yeah.
the Olympic trials 2024,
Oh
January, I
yeah.
believe
Yep.
2024, Orlando, the big race where you kind of put your name on the map, you place fourth. Did that feel like an overnight success to you? And certainly that was sort
Oh
of
god,
the
no.
okay, yeah, exactly. So can you
Not to
speak to
me.
that? Yeah,
I
can you
mean, I
speak to
thought it was
that?
so funny. Like, people are like, "Who is
Do you
this
see what I'm
Jess
saying
McClain
though?
chick?" Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
because that's
I
the
think
perfect example.
yeah, I think too, people looking in and the out you just anybody on the outside, it was just like, "Oh my gosh, who is this Jess McClain who got fourth, came out of nowhere?" And it's like I not that I wish that that was the case, but it's like, no, I've been running at a really high level since I was 12 and I just I completely went into the trials doing everything just for my pure love of like training, racing, competing, and just like running as a whole. And it was the most like free I felt going into a race. I was like, I do not care what anybody thinks. And I was gone and removed from the sport for a few years. And I think anybody in that position, it'd be easy to fall back into like, oh my God, like, we're going to be back in the race, like the meet hotel vibe. Like, what are people going to think? And is it weird if I go to the Brooks house and explore, all the fun activations? But I just went in and I'm like, I'm so happy to be here and have just like the level of curiosity and joy and excitement around this race. And I went in with the goal of like, obviously, wanting to run well. I think I finally found the event that just makes so much sense for me, who I am as an athlete and my body. But I don't know. I just wanted to go in and like only run for the right reasons, the reasons that bring me joy. And I wanted to be one of the ones in that hotel and on the start line that weekend that had the most fun there. And I think Connor and I did. We had an absolute blast. It was one of my favorite race memories of all time. And it's just really cool that I've tried to keep that mentality, strengthen, other things around it, like just the professionalism and doing the right things and all that. But it's like every time I've really leaned in and had that be the focus, where it's like, we're going to look at everything as my teammate Susanna had the best quote from the Boston weekend on one of our Brooks panels. Somebody asked her like, oh, like, is it hard to do all these appearances and obligations, on a weekend like a world major? And she basically said like, you can look at something as like energy taking or energy giving. And I was like, holy shit, that's like exactly how I approach like every race. And I just look at everything as energy giving, and the things that are energy taking, whether that's an action or a thing or a person, or I just don't give it the time of day anymore. And I think I just focus on the things that really like bring joy and are additive. And I think the trials was like testing that theory of like, can I do this training less but at a high intensity level, but having a lot of fun while doing it? And I was like, okay, yeah, I think we can give this a go for in terms of our approach for a while longer. And it's been great. So
Is there a separate reality where trials doesn't go well at all? You DNF or you place
yeah,
mediocrely and
great
you hang
question.
it up right then and there?
I was kind of going into that weekend as like, no matter how this goes, it's going to be a great way to go out. I was like, I have not been able to make it to a start line of an Olympic trials healthy or ready to go. So in my mind, it was a win just getting there. Had I DNF'd or like blown up, I mean, if I blew up, the whole point was like nobody really had any money on me to do anything special. So like there wasn't that pressure. I think I would have still lined back up in another marathon and given it like another go. A DNF would have been a bummer. I'm not quite sure how I would have like bounced back from that. But I think regardless, I went in with the expectation that like we're gonna just really enjoy whatever the journey is, and not focus so much on the outcome. But I think there were a lot of things that played into my strengths about the weekend, where I knew it would go like a blow up, like in the grand scheme of things, probably wouldn't have been a DNF or something like that. So I think, yeah, that's a
Fight
great
to the
question. I
end.
haven't thought too much about that, but yeah, that's always interesting. Like, what if?
It's funny the questions that arise, because I've had you on tons of times after the trials, but I'm thinking of some of these
Yeah.
things for the first time. And I think the more that you run well, the more that the story sort of shapes and gets like expanded and becomes a little more special. So the other piece of your story that I think people might not know about is you used to be a professional runner for Brooks. Before that, you ran at Stanford.
Uh-huh.
And after the trials, companies start reaching out. You ultimately decide to re-sign with Brooks, I guess you would call it. At this point, you've been in corporate America, crushing the nonprofit side of things that you do. I'm assuming, not to hate on younger Jess, but I'm just assuming way more mature, business minded, knowing what you're doing. What was the difference between like first time contract negotiations going out of Stanford into Brooks versus like second time? And the funny disclaimer here is the head of sports marketing at Brooks. I don't know if you ever overlapped at Stanford, but he used
Oh
to
yeah,
run
we
at
did.
Stanford.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Garrett
So
was my
like former
volunteer assistant
teammate.
coach. Uh-huh.
Yeah, now is like running your probably contract negotiations.
Yes. I mean, night and day. I think pro running was obviously a thing. It was a potential career path, and it was not even up and coming. Like, I think it was um not as like, I don't know. I don't think it was like as known as like the next step, if you were running well collegiately. I think it was like my junior senior year where I was working with Coach Milt, and he's like, I think if we really go all in, your senior fifth year, like you could do this post collegiately. And I think that's kind of when, the lights went on. But gosh, in terms of like the first round of negotiations, man, oh man, I knew nothing. I look back at that time and I'm like, I wish I just was less scared to have more conversations, put myself in positions where I could just learn more, like lean on, just lean on pros that are doing it or had done it. Just be less scared to ask questions and reach out. But yeah, I knew very little. Luckily, I have a dad who is very well versed in like contract negotiations and writing contracts and legalese, all that stuff. So it was nice to lean on my parents through that process. But it was brutal, honestly. I think um, and then all my friends were kind of like getting these amazing jobs out of college as a Stanford grad. So I think there were some question marks where I was like, I wasn't this huge star. So I wasn't landing a contract that was like life changing. If anything, it was probably less like, um, I don't know, like I probably would have been more successful just going into a marketing career right away. Now that I look back on it, but I mean, had I not, I wouldn't be where I am now. So yeah, I just completely different. I think also the team, like basically you sign a contract and you're picking like which team you were gonna go with. And you kind of like did it that way. You're like, okay, which team can I see myself vibing with and running with for a long time. And then it was like, then after that, you kind of thought of the brand, like you kind of sussed out the team vibes first. Now I think there's just so many more options. Like you don't even have to sign a contract right away if you want to be a professional athlete. You can work part-time, full-time, and try to go pro. And I
I mean,
think
On
that
and Hoka didn't even exist really back when
no,
your first time.
no,
Yeah. Solomon
yeah,
didn't really exist.
no, it was basically like I went on visits. I went to Bend to visit with Wazell. I went to Boston to visit with New Balance Boston. I spoke with who I did go to Providence to connect with Ray, and then I obviously made my way to Seattle. So those were kind of the options that I had, which were all honestly great options, and I could see myself kind of anywhere. I think at that point, I think the East Coast scared me a little bit because I had just been in perfect weather my entire life up until that point. But yeah, so then this second go around, I was like, okay, I know a lot more. Um, I work a full-time marketing job, so I support myself financially. So like this is like a bonus, if this ends up happening. I don't have an agent, so I'm handling all negotiations myself, and I can vouch for myself. And I think that was like a big learning curve for me, and helped me understand like my elevator pitch for myself to like, shoe companies and people that I was connecting with. Because yeah, I had a great performance at the trials, but it's like I had nothing to my name for 2 years results wise, and this would probably be like a gamble for some shoe companies to invest in me and sign me. So it was good. I think I was in the driver's seat for the first time in my career, and I'm like, wow, I know exactly what's being communicated to these people because I'm doing that. I'm doing the communicating. And like, could I have gotten more offers and had more conversations if I had an agent? Maybe. But I was like, the people that are reaching out and that I'm connecting with right now um, are showing that they're interested in the Jess, like who I am in this moment. So that was really great. And I think Garrett has been somebody I've honestly looked up to and emulated since the Stanford days. Like, that era of Stanford men was just, and women, was crazy. You had Garrett and Elliot and Chris Derrick, Jake Riley, like just awesome, awesome people. And then Garrett and I were actually teammates at the Beast for quite some time. So we have a history, which is great. And I think that was something that was comforting. Like, I just think he's a really good human and really, really smart, really intelligent. So I think when, we connected after the trials, just felt natural. And it felt like Brooks had stayed the same in the right ways, but evolved in the ways that were just really cool to see in terms of tech and marketing investment. And like the way they were thinking was just so global and big, and really exciting. And I put the shoes on. I went to the Hyperion House in Orlando and snagged my free pair of shoes for trials qualifiers. And I'm like, okay, Brooks shoes have gotten so much better since I've left. And honestly, Brooks was one of the only companies that didn't ask me to change a ton of what I was doing or who I was at this stage of my life. And that was super important. Like, they were invested in all of the things that were making me happy and stay healthy at this point in my career. And it just seemed like the right fit. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What's funny for me is first bigger marathon I ever went to was the Olympic trials, and it was with Brooks. They flew me out because I hosted a panel for them at the trials that
Oh,
year. So I know
amazing. I
exactly
didn't
what
even
you're
know
talking
that.
about. Yeah, I mean, crazy. Yeah, more full circle moments. So I remember seeing you on race day and vaguely knowing who you were. I'm so young that when you were really a professional runner, I was not really following the sport. So I think I like knew who you were. And then when you finished,
Way
I
to
was
make
like,
me
oh my
feel old.
gosh, this is crazy. No, still young, still
I'm
young.
kidding.
34 is very young.
You're right.
I want to ask you in regards to like most people who are signing contracts, they want to make it their livelihood, right? And so the
Yeah.
dollar amount probably matters a lot. There's probably like a lot of thought process, a lot of weighing pros and cons with different people. Was that something you kind of threw out the window of like, I have a good paying job, I'm
Hmm.
married, I'm in a stable, marriage and relationship. Like, I don't
Yeah.
need the money. It's nice. I would love a nice contract. Obviously, if you're going to do something, you want to do it, to the best of its ability and get something you're worth.
Hmm.
But maybe to the average or just to the average person, a contract is just way different if it's your full-time job than if it's
Yeah.
just, as you said in your words, like kind of a bonus.
Hmm. I think a lot of going into that process too, I was like, do I even want a contract? Like, will it change the way that I have approached all of this? And like, will it undo all the work I've done to finally get to a mindset where like I'm not putting so much pressure on myself to like hit what could be potentially considered contractual milestones and obligations. Like, I was just like, oh my God, will it just unravel everything that I've worked hard to, kind of rewrite in my brain? But I think that's an interesting question, because obviously like some contracts are pretty lucrative now. Like, I think if you invest in your brand and your social media and all of that, and you've got good times and performances on the track or roads, like, you could make a full-time living doing this, of course. And I think that's amazing if that's the way you want to like, if that's something that is a goal of yours to work up to. I think that's great. For me personally, I didn't need a contract. It was I mean, this was right before Connor hadn't started his business yet. So I think eventually it was very helpful. But yeah, I think at the time I was like, you know what, all of this is additive. But I think there's so much that I saw in Brooks that was like, I really want to be a part of everything they're doing. And I took it as like, okay, they're investing in me, and that's so cool. But this doesn't change how we're doing everything. Like we're gonna keep it fun, and they wouldn't have signed me, I think, if they didn't see that in me. And I think that's something that like I hate being asked like, you know, what's the strength of yours or blah 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 blah. But I do think it's cool to have an older athlete, you know, quote unquote, on your roster that can show some of the younger ones, you know, under the fold that you can have a lot of fun and still run really really well. But I think for me right now, like running is actually, it is 100% supporting my lifestyle. Like we're business owners. We have a lot of just life expenses, and it's something that is allowing me to do a lot of things in my life that I'm very very fortunate for. So I think um, I am lucky to work full time outside of that, because when I go into a race, I'm not thinking in dollar signs ever. Like I just want to do the best on that day for me and get the best out of myself. But there was so much pressure when I was on you know, when I had my first contract. I'm like, if I do not get money from this race, I'm literally like losing money being a professional athlete. Like I was getting MRIs way too much. I was hurt a lot. And that, you know, is part of my own doing, just not understanding my body and myself as an athlete and being able to like communicate that. But I was definitely struggling like as a first time pro. I was not making that much money. I was not racing enough to like come out in the green for most of my races. I think the most money I made was in road races if I was healthy enough to keep racing post USAs. But other than that, it was pretty rough. So I did work a little bit. I worked part-time in marketing starting in 2015 or 2016 for a company I actually still work for,
Oh, cool.
which is awesome. But yeah, I mean, I was struggling for sure. And I think it's okay to like have a part-time job. Like I don't understand unless it's something where you're like on your feet all day. You know, like I think the medical path is tough for that. Like you are just you're grinding, you're on your feet a lot. But like if you have to do it, you have to do it. And I think you just have to be able to compartmentalize, know that some days just getting training done is good enough and you can't stress too much about it. But I think you can eventually work up to a point where like if success compounds and the amount of years that you're healthy and able to train well compounds, like you can work up to a pretty great contract. But it's a catch 22 because there is pressure, you know. I've gotten to a place where I don't quite think about that when I'm racing or going into a race. That's like the last thing I think about now. But I think that is in part because I have supported myself outside of running, so I don't feel like it's a do or die, if that makes sense.
From your understanding of the landscape and running contracts as a whole, and as we talked about, sort of renegotiating at two different inflection points of your life, do you think there's a lot more money in the sport now, like in contracts and how
Mm-hmm.
brands invest?
Yeah. Just based on where I was like and what I was seeing 10 years ago. Yeah. I think there's still improvement to be made on like the types of like companies and brands like outside of the sphere like that we're thinking in right now to be brought into the fold. Like I think there's a lot more work to be done, but you're seeing things push the needle forward. Like Athlos has been amazing. You know, just like things that are changing the game a little bit. But I think so. I mean, the roads are, look, if the track life has been stressful but you love it, see, that's a tough one. Like I moved to the roads and like there's just a lot more opportunity, like quite frankly, to make prize money. But you can always, like, I think staying on the track and racing here and there makes you such a strong athlete holistically. So I dabble in both, but I primarily focus on the roads, and that is not because of the money. It helps, but like I just love the roads. But I think there's things you can do, and there's certain races you can target to like try and run really well at. Most races have their like prize money structure on, you know, their websites, and that's great. But like Yeah, I think there's more. I think there's more money now. I didn't know a ton back then, so it's hard to say, but I mean, just seeing how much brands are investing in marketing and how much marketing has become a part of contracts from what I can just gather from an outside perspective looking in. Like, um, one of my favorite YouTube channels is Clayton's, and you could tell that ASICS was investing in Clayton, in his older contract. Now I'm very happy that Brooks has brought him in, and it's something that's under our amazing team structure. But you can just tell that brands are investing in marketing a ton. Like everything Brooks is doing around Josh's attempt in London, like it's or maybe money's being allocated differently. I guess I don't 100% know, but at a very like bird's eye view level, I'd say yes.
What was your first year contract with, not money? That's not what I'm asking. What was I know you can't share that. What year was your first contract with Brooks?
I had my 5th year was 2015, and they signed me, I think, in like July or August 2015.
Okay, 2015.
Yeah, and then I was there until like December 2018. I think I moved home like 2019, early.
Okay, because my hypothesis is I think these companies have just made so much more money because running is booming, and so I think the budgets have just gotten way bigger. And even like that Hyperion house, you would never have heard of any company doing that in 2015.
Oh my god, the Hyperion house in London was amazing, and the one in Boston, both were kick ass.
But even
I would agree.
Like Brooks isn't sponsoring this podcast, but to give them their flowers, I know a lot of people within the organization. I work with them enough to the point where like I love Garrett Heath, one of the nicest guys ever. So yes. I'll give them their flowers. Like signed a ton of NIL athletes. They pick up Foot Locker after it dies, and now they have that. Brooks PR, they're investing in a ton. Yeah, like the marathoners, they picked up Clayton, they picked up like all sorts of big names. So it seems like Brooks, honestly, out of any company on the market right now, is actually being the most aggressive. And there are parts of me where I'm like, where are they getting this money from? Because it's just like 2-year push, it seems like. So yeah, it is crazy. But I looked up real quickly. 2015, Brooks finished 2014 at roughly 500 million in annual sales. 2025, let's see, putting them 1.5 billion range. So they've 3x'd. So yeah. I just think they have more money to work with.
Yeah, I think there's something, I mean, I feel like there was a big running boom post-COVID too. Like running was something you could just put a pair of shoes on, favorite running clothes, and just like get some sort of activity, exercise, workout in during the pandemic. And then all of a sudden, like marathons are selling out up the wazoo, and it's so cool to see. Like I know there's like all these conversations and opinions about that, but like the fact that every marathon that happens like on the major front is basically announcing like a new record for people running, New York, then London, then. So I think there's something going on too where like running, and I make this joke, I'm like, man, I wish running was this cool back when I was, like I feel like if you were on cross country or like you were kind of a nerd, and that's I leaned into that. But now it's like running is cool, which I love. I like to say it's always been cool, but I feel like it's just like everybody's finding their way to it, on their own time. And I think that's really cool too. So I think just from like, yeah, that's good perspective to bring into where it's just like more people are running and getting into it, thus more shoes are being sold. So, not a bad problem. So
yeah, not a bad problem at all. I don't know if you saw it too, like Apple, they're now one of the sponsors of the London Marathon. I've said this on a few podcasts, but like if Apple is getting involved, those guys do not put money in things that are not going to return on investment. So I feel like running is just booming, and I think it's a really cool time period. Another thing I looked up, so Brooks was 550 in 2015. Now they're 1.5 billion in 2025. Hoka was 85 million in 2015.
That's a crazy one.
And they're 2.2 billion. Yeah. So I think On is something similar. So that's where I'm like, I think we got to ride the wave. I also, my fear is I don't want us to peak in 2028 and then lose our steam. I know. So I think we got to keep it going.
Keep it going.
But to that conversation, so Boston goes super well. It seems like every marathon you're increasingly getting a little bit better and better. Obviously it's 2026. Is there any part of your heart that's like, damn it, I wish the trials was this year? Or do you think at 36 years old, you'll be gunning? Really? Okay. You feel good about the timeline?
Yeah, I feel great. I think yeah, I don't really feel any type of way about that. I think 2 more years is like, okay, 2 more years of, really good running and racing under my belt. I think by then, I think what was Boston Marathon 8? Yeah, so I'll be in the double digits of marathons that I've run. So it's like I only see upside. Obviously the name of the game is like staying healthy and um staying excited about it, which I don't see a problem, I just coming into play there. So yeah, no, I'm trying. It's like that weird time because like obviously everything we're doing in training is to like plan backwards from that, but I'm like trying not we're just enough far out where I'm like I'm not thinking about it until probably, a year from now. A little earlier than that. So yeah, just building excitement, I guess.
So many, many minutes ago, I said there are two things you said I want to circle back on. I circle back on one. We went down a rabbit hole. The second to this point was you were talking about earlier how you feel better at 34 getting out of bed than you did at like 28, 26.
Yeah.
Is this like the athletic greens powder working, or is like what's behind this? Like, what are you doing to feel your best at 34?
Great question. I mean, there were literally mornings. I remember being at altitude camp where I was like praying I wouldn't have to pee in the middle of the night because I was so broken. I could barely walk to the bathroom. Like I had so many problems going on here and
Is that
there.
real? Or are you exaggerating?
No, I'm not exaggerating. I
Wow.
had, plantar fasciitis with a slight tear at my calcaneal attachment with bone spurs in Albuquerque. That was a fun cocktail of injuries. And then my second metatarsal completely snapped in the middle of an out and back long run. That was another fun one. My favorites were always, stress reactions or stress fractures in my tibia fibia. Yeah, I kind of had a lot of lower leg things going on, but I never quite got to the bottom of all that because I, just kind of moved back to Phoenix and took a step back. But yeah, I think now I do see an amazing body work massage therapist. I'm always like, George, what do you want me to call you? Because you're not like a traditional massage therapist. He's so brilliant. I don't even want to gatekeep him because he's so good. I see him every week and I've seen him every week for almost 3 years, that I'm in town or that it works. But he's completely changed the way my body just functions and how I see functional movement. Anytime I do strength, it's like an exercise that he has me do. I haven't been into the gym in months and months and months. I don't think since like my Tokyo build. I don't do like lifting or strength traditionally per se, but like I
That's a
just
hot
do.
take.
It's a hot take. Come at me. I just like don't have the time 3 times a week to like go drive to the gym, do a 45-minute lift, drive home.
You're
Like I
crunching
just
spreadsheets.
we got dogs to save, people. No, I think at that point it's either a toss up between like I'm starting to double finally, can trust myself to do that again. So in the last year I've implemented a few doubles a week when it makes sense. So I'm just everything I do has to be purposeful when it comes to training, but he has been a huge game changer for me. Honestly, fueling has been huge. I think my body comp and just like you would think getting into marathon training, you would like lean out and feel like less strong. And it's like the strongest I've ever felt. I'm eating the most I've ever eaten. And I'm just more mindful about like what I'm eating when. Like workout days, of course, I'm eating a ton, but like recovery and off days, I'm like housing food. A lot of protein because it's just like your body needs to adapt to the hard training you did the day prior. And then obviously like all the fueling on the run. Mostly anything over, I would say like 90 minutes and over, I'm fueling. And it would just be like maybe 1 or 2 gels on a 80 to 90 minute steady run. But obviously hitting it pretty hard for workouts and long runs. So I would say those 2 things. People can obviously say like good sleep hygiene, but it's like I function fine off of like 6 to 7 hours a night if I need to. I'm going into summer where it's like I try to get to bed by 8 or 9 and I'm up at 4. So I don't let sleep stress me out. But yeah, I would say those 2 things. And then just like, yeah, I think there's a huge mental side of it too. I can spend all this time thinking about how like the shelf life I have left, and that I'm 34, and that, oh, what could I have done at 28 if I got into the marathon? But it's like, I don't, anytime like a thought like that creeps up, I'm just like, thank God I'm where I'm at right now and the body that I'm in, and have the mentality that I do around all of this, because I'm just really enjoying it. And I see, like Sarah Hall and freaking Des, and that they're all doing amazing stuff, like in their early 40s. And I'm like, I hope I'm at a point where I still love what I'm doing, to where like it shifts in some ways, but you're doing the same thing in a different way. So yeah. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else tangibly that I can like attribute to just, you know, feeling good, but I would say those are probably at the top of my list.
Can we double click on you saying you've eaten more than you've ever eaten before? Because I
Mm-hmm.
think every high school girl needs to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there were points in my career where, as an early pro, it was not great. I would never say that I've been lucky to kind of like evade periods of disordered eating. Like I don't think I truly have had, run-ins with that. I think there's been moments where I've restricted. Unfortunately, I think that was kind of at play my first stint as a pro. There was a lot of focused around like race weight, and if I'm injured, like how can we maintain weight and not, and I'm just like, dude, I was injured all the time. So I'm like, the amount I was thinking about that was just not healthy, versus like, let's look at food as fuel and use it as a tool. And I think that's one of my biggest things. A few of us, like Arizona runners, Arizona alumna are trying to think about getting like a group of us together and to just connect with high schoolers in Arizona. And I think that's and it's a tricky topic, but it's like, it's cool to hear that you should eat more. Like obviously be mindful about it. I think there were points in high school where I was eating like 5 servings of pasta, and you don't necessarily need that, but it's like, it's good to have conversations around food as like a total asset to just like overall health and feeling really strong. And I think, yeah, David's been obviously somebody who's just changed my whole viewpoint around food intake and fueling on and off the runs. And I'm so grateful to him for that, because I think I never really looked at food that way. I think I was more like, oh, I'm stoked to get into marathoning because I can kind of eat whatever I want, and which is true. But like, it's so cool to, he'll write in my log, like after a hard workout, he'll be like, eat like a linebacker tomorrow. Like make sure this is a good burger, get a burger tomorrow. Like he'll just like remind me in my log that, hey, that now is not the time to like not get a good meal in, 2 to 3 of them in the day. So yeah, I think that's something I'm super grateful for. And I've noticed, I don't know what it is. Like I have noticed a change in my body. I don't know if it's like getting back on the track too. And really, I think that's huge for strength, at least on the marathon side. But I just feel super strong, and I, could look at it in a way that I'm like, oh, am I different than, the traditional, like when you think of a marathoner, like what image pops into your head? And I'm like, maybe that's not me, but I'm hoping like seeing more just like different women on the start line. I think it's such a cool thing. And I've always kind of been a runner that's been, I played soccer and all that fun stuff. So traditionally I've just had a different body type throughout my career. And I think it's something I used to think about, and now I'm just I'm leaning into it because it's helping me. My body is what's allowing me to run really well and really enjoy it. So
Yeah, not to say that there can't be long-term effects for men who don't eat enough, but
yes.
I don't. Were you ever? I mean, he was way younger than you, but were you ever connected to Alex Osberg?
In just like through the Stanford
Okay, yeah,
connection.
pipeline. Yeah, so
Don't know him personally, I would say, but
yeah, he's like a OG. He was my first ever podcast guest. He's like a very early mentor to me. So he writes a newsletter for me
amazing.
that's like very scientific, and he's written multiple editions on like nutrition and whatnot. But one of the things he writes and has taught me about is just like, you can do, if you're a female and you undereat within a younger age range, like you can do long-term bone damage if you're
Hmm.
not eating enough. And also just so scary with the menstrual cycle. Like if you're missing a period, I've talked to registered dietitians about this. Like
Yeah.
you should generally actually stop running and fix the problem, rather
Hmm.
than just like run through it. And the cool thing, like we talked about the running boom and like all that. I also think it's happening with these conversations too. Like they're becoming more public and normal, which I'm so proud of and happy about, that it's like become normalized for pros and other
Yeah.
people to come out and be like, hey, this isn't normal. This isn't okay. And I think 10, 20 years ago, from my understanding of reading or
Oh,
talking to people, it
doo
was like
doo.
so normalized.
Yeah.
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 So
To like
it's really
not
cool to
even
see the
top.
shift.
It was like kind of all like not like you wouldn't even talk about this 10 years ago. Yeah, and I think now it's shifting in a really good way where people are and I think also athletes like I obviously when you're cooling down at races and running with people like especially if it's like a group of women you kind of talk about everything under the sun, but it's very cool to hear people just be so forthcoming about what they're going through because I think the more at least at the elite level that people are willing to share, obviously like very personal choice to share any health related anything, but yeah, I think it's very like I wish I had something like that to look up to as a high schooler or just more information. And now we're in like an era where it's like information overload, so you have to like figure out what's actually like viable and true. But yeah, I think it's also not it's easier to ask for help and to reach out and to at least with David, like he's somebody that I think to like anything in that realm, if something was off for me, I would 100% shoot him a text, get him on the phone, write it in my log. Like that's something that I think is super valuable for a coach to know, especially if you're a female athlete, and your body's going through something that is not regular for you. I think it's so important to share that with your coach if you obviously feel comfortable with that. But um, therefore, they can like alter your training and or have you back off so that things can regulate and you're not, getting yourself into a huge deficit and doing like long term damage. So that's something I also stress too. Anytime I'm with like a high school athlete or a group of high school athletes, I'm just like learning how to communicate with your coach is so important. But it's obviously a two-way street, so you have to trust in your coach, and your coach has to instill that trust in the athletes to where they feel like they are comfortable sharing that. And that's obviously something you learn over time. I think as a high schooler it's so hard because you're in your body for the first time and you're figuring things out. You're like, I don't know what's what's up and what's down at this point when your body's going through changes. But yeah, very cool that it's becoming more a topic of conversation. I think it's very, very neat.
For you, long day at work, long training day, long workout, maybe long run, what's like the go-to Jess McClain power dinner? Share one recipe for the audience today. You and Connor,
Recipe.
evening. What are you cooking?
We'll throw burgers together all the time. Or it's just we have like three. We live in like a neighborhood where we have like 3 or 4 great burger spots right around us. One is a drive-through and it's stellar, but like on nights where we're just exhausted and we know we need a good meal, that's a go-to. We do a lot of taco nights. It's so easy. It's like get some good ground beef, throw tortillas in the oven, put your toppings out, boom, dinner. like I would love to be able to like chef up a multi-hour like meal every night, but it's just not the reality right now. So we do whatever's easiest. Obviously we try to like prioritize good ingredients and stuff, but honestly, just whatever's easy and whatever hits all the whatever good protein counts and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, the simple rule of thumb is just if you're hungry, it is a sign from your body to eat food. Um,
Exactly.
and
Snacking
Alex
is
has also
life.
told me this, like the downside of eating too much is far better than the downside of not eating enough, and it's so hard to eat too much. Like the
Yeah.
problem with social media is we've conflated like doctors talking to obese people with like runners. It's like, guys, know what audience, know like who you're pulling from. Like if you come across a reel and they're talking about like how sugar is going to kill you, it's like, well, they're not
Oh,
talking to people who are
I
doing a
can't.
15-mile tempo run.
Yeah,
Like totally different audience, totally different intent.
exactly. David has like a really good philosophy around it. His like quote is something like, eat enough always, eat too much like sometimes, and then eat too little never. That's kind of like what I've
That's
heard him
good.
say. And I just feel
That's
like
good.
that's really good, simple advice. I work from home like 2 or 3 times a week. And I like, you catch me snacking every like, I'm basically like an infant newborn child, like every 2 hours I'm like putting something in my body. And it's just how it is. Like and there's a lull like after Boston, I'm not really running for a few weeks, so it's like you notice, and especially the taper is always interesting for a marathon because you're either backing off on intensity or you're like backing off on mileage, and like either way you're just a little less hungry, but you're also in a period of your training cycle where like you want to get the carbs in, so that's always an interesting time of the build. But for the most part, I eat when I'm hungry. Yeah.
Before we wrap up here, I want to speak specifically. I love my conversations with you, Jess, because we just go down paths I don't expect. And it's like,
Like no
well,
roadmap.
it's awesome. It's awesome because there aren't many athletes I'd be comfortable. Like, what's cool about you is you're so established. And honestly, I just
Oh,
experienced this with Milt's people. Like, Milt, he coaches good athletes, but he coaches great speakers. Like you, Vanessa, Alex, Elise, Sean. Like you guys know how to talk. So it's
no.
always fun going down like talking about like business stuff and because these are that or food, like these are the stuff
Yeah.
that's like more interesting to me, quite frankly, than like what'd you hit 4 by mile like before Boston. But I'm sure some of the audience is interested, as am I. You run 2:20:49, American course record in Boston, 5th overall. Actually, real quick question. I was watching and 5th place was right in front of you, and it seemed like you had enough time to catch her. Was that going through your mind of like, oh, I got to catch her. Let me dig deep. It looked like you kind of knew you were going to catch her. What was
Yeah.
going through your thought process?
I think I knew. Yeah. I think I just felt so good. And I think part of me, I was obviously super happy, and I hit most of the goals I had set for myself that day. But I think, there's always the what ifs. I'm like, oh, if I feel like I could have gone with Sharon. Like when the group first dropped, they're like 440, whatever it was, mile. I feel like I could have gone with them for the first one. Don't think I could run a 5K PR within a marathon and have hung with her for like whatever she ran. What does she run? Like 14:48 in the middle
Something
for
crazy.
last 10K. She's amazing. But I think there were points where I was like, man, I had enough in the tank where I'm like, where could I have, given that? At what point of the last 10K could I have just squeezed a little bit more? But I think that home stretch, on Boylston, like the goal for me is, I mean, obviously, like if I'm feeling trash ever at the end of Boston and I'm like, just get me to the finish line, maybe it's a little different, but I'm like, I just wanted to soak it in. And I think that's the point where the crowd is just like, whatever's going on in my body, I'm like paying less attention to it because the vibes are just so amazing. And I think that's what was kind of getting me to the finish line. And then obviously I just noticed I was gaining, a little bit on 5th place, and then at some point I was like, I think I can catch her. So that was like the final little like push of motivation before I got to the finish. But yeah, I think I knew. I honestly didn't know what place I was in, which seems to be a theme in my life. But yeah,
Well, it's
I
got to be
think
hard. You'd only know if someone shouted it out, right?
yeah, you kind
Because
of
it's
like
hard to keep track of who
it's so
got
hard.
lost, who ran ahead,
Yeah.
who's
And the
behind
pack
you.
breaks up so fast. Like when a move is made in a marathon, it's crazy. I always thought like moves in 10Ks and 5Ks were nuts, which they are, but like marathons are wild because you just never know how you're going to feel at that point. And you look up and then you're just left in the dust and you're like, oh, hot damn. Okay, here we go.
What's
But
harder to keep track of place wise? Big cross country meet like NCAA's or major marathon?
um probably majors. Just because like in an NCAA race, you're like, people aren't really dropping out. Like a bunch of things like aren't really happening that are in a marathon. Like I think things just happen in a marathon where you just don't know if somebody bonked or something happened with, their gut felt off with fueling, or like you just don't know what's happening. Especially if you're not in that front pack. So yeah, I'd say marathon for sure.
How many times in a marathon do you look behind you?
0. I was only forced to
Wow.
look behind me when I turned around for my bottle. because I dropped it. But that was something my high school coaches instilled in me. It's like, you never look
Never
back,
look behind.
ever.
Yeah.
And I never look back. Like obviously there's certain things like, like when I'm running, like I'll look back for cars or oncoming traffic, but like, no, in a race, never. I will never look back. Unless it's like, I don't know, you're finishing for the podium and you want to enjoy it and you're like, okay, I just want to make sure I have room behind me. Like, I think that's a moment where, like, if I know I'm going to podium and I really want to soak it in, it's like, okay, you got to do your due diligence and make sure you're not going to get outkicked or something. But yeah, no, I haven't. I would say looking back is a no-go for me. I don't need to know what's happening back there.
Yeah,
if I'm getting caught, I'll figure it out at some point or not.
All eyes ahead. So 220 American course record. Did training shift much going into this, or is it basically the same thing? Because I remember in previous conversations you walked me through how you actually do much lower mileage than most marathoners, and sort of the training that David has you do is slightly unique for the marathon distance. Is it just the consistency that's paying off, where it's like, okay, I'm healthy, I'm stacking, so every marathon's going to get bigger? Or are you guys tweaking things?
I would say it's like 75% consistency and then tweaking like 25%. I definitely like ran a few more doubles this year. I think I did. There were a lot more just quality long runs too, where I think I just hit that system where you're like, okay, that was a proper marathon long run or workout. And then I think something that was lacking, and David and I, what I love about him is he's like so collaborative, and just so willing to just hear your feedback and thoughts as an athlete. And for a long time, I was like, I don't care what my weaknesses are. I just want to like train for, do what's fun, do what my body likes. And that worked through New York kind of, in 2024. But then, once David and I started working together, I'm like, wow, he definitely knows his stuff. And I have weaknesses to work on, which is actually something that motivates me. Like, I think it's good to know that there's like not even low hanging fruit anymore. Like, you got to work for the fruit at the top of the tree, but like there's still things to improve upon. And I think for me, I really lacked the gear change. I think in the 10K last year, I just knew, I was like, the minute if it goes out slow and it's tactical, I'm kind of like fighting for fifth place. And that's exactly what happened. And then with Boston last year, there were just a few moments where I was like, man, it would be nice to know that I could respond to moves when they happen and not feel like I'm in a deficit for responding. And I think we did a ton of gear shifting work before even in the Tokyo build. And that's become really cool to be able to toggle between like marathon pace and 10K pace. Like, I wouldn't say it's so easy, but like I can go from running like 5:18s to 4:56 pretty seamlessly now. And I think that's something that's really cool to see, especially at like mile 14 or 16 of a long run. Sometimes even I won't even do that until mile 18. So yeah, I'm just seeing little things, and like I'm still ripping fast 200s, and some of my workouts are getting longer and the intensity is increasing a little bit. So there's things that I look back and I'm like, okay, we're definitely getting faster. Things are clicking earlier each build, which is nice. But yeah, I think it's also a testament to him where it's like, okay, we don't, sometimes you can get a little greedy and be like, all right, we're going to try XYZ. And David's like, what we did really, really worked. How can we make it how can we fine tune it? And, like work on those weaknesses that you still have in a way that's smart and mindful that, I'm still racing throughout my build. So, that was another thing. I just felt really good in most of my races.
Racing, taking right turns, wink, wink. Yeah, left turns.
Yeah, so that was really cool too, to just, I went into a lot of races and he's like, you're probably going to feel like shit. And I'm like, I didn't. I felt really good. And that was just cool. So my body responded really well to what we did this block, which is great. We'll take that.
Well, Jess, I could talk to you for another hour, but you've got world problems to solve, so I'll let you go. But even that comment there at the end, for those who got it, we didn't even get into the whole drama of that half marathon race. So we'll have to do another podcast in the future. what we got to do is when Connor's around, we got to do a dual podcast because I don't
I
think I've seen you
know.
do one together. Have you
I
guys
don't
done one
know.
together?
We have, but I am always worried about what will come out of his mouth. So
That's great.
I
After
don't
hours,
know.
the running effect.
Oh
We'll add a
gosh.
little E at the bottom.
Yeah,
Everyone
I
can go
get
home
I
happy.
can get 2 discretionary editing cuts. How about that?
Full editorial control, Jess. There you go. You can just press a button. So, but anyways, I appreciate the time as always, and your story is absolutely remarkable. So,
Thanks,
I appreciate
Dominic.
you. Final words in a couple sentences. Fans of Jess McClain watching, listening, what can they expect from you in the rest of the year leading into
Oh gosh.
2028?
Getting back into racing. I'll probably be able to share that soon, but gonna race in June through through the fall, through the next big marathon. I'm still working out where I'll be in the fall. But yeah, very, very excited. And I think I'll be helping out with the marathon project again, which I'm really excited about. I know that's like way off. That's in December, but I just had a blast pacing there last year. And I think it's in my hometown. And I know we've got so many OTQers to get on the line in 2028. So I'm just excited to see like how the rest of the year unfolds. Yeah, and I'll be getting back on the roads here soon. So stoked about it.
Amazing. Jess,
Yeah.
34, young, time of her life. Keep crushing it. I appreciate you so much.
Oh, thanks, Dominic. Appreciate you. Keep grinding.